What is compound interest? Compound interest is the interest on savings calculated on both the initial principal and the accumulated interest from previous periods. Interest on interest, or the power of compound interest, is believed to have originated in 17th century Italy. It will make a sum grow faster than simple interest, which is calculated only on the principal amount. Compounding multiplies money at an accelerated rate, and the greater the number of compounding periods, the greater the compound interest will be. How compound interest works. Compound interest is calculated by multiplying the initial principal amount by 1 plus the annual interest rate raised to the number of compound periods minus 1. The total initial amount of the loan is then subtracted from the resulting value. The formula for calculating the amount of compound interest is as follows. Compound interest equals total amount of principal and interest in future, or future value, minus principal amount at present, or present value. The power of compound interest. Compound interest can significantly boost investment returns over the long term. While a $100,000 deposit that receives 5% simple annual interest would earn $50,000 in total interest over 10 years, the annual compound interest of 5% on $10,000 would amount to $62,889.46 over the same period. If the compounding period were instead paid monthly over the same 10-year period at 5% compound interest, the total interest would instead grow to $64,700.95. Compound interest schedules. Interest can be compounded on any given frequency schedule, from daily to annually. There are standard compounding frequency schedules that are usually applied to financial instruments. The commonly used compounding schedule for savings accounts at banks is daily. For a certificate of deposit, CD, typical compounding frequency schedules are daily, monthly, or semi-annually. For money market accounts, it's often daily. For home mortgage loans, home equity loans, personal business loans, or credit card accounts, the most commonly applied compounding schedule is monthly. There can also be variations in the time frame in which the accrued interest is credited to the existing balance. Interest on an account may be compounded daily but only credited monthly. It is only when the interest is credited, or added to the existing balance, that it begins to earn additional interest in the account. More frequent compounding of interest is beneficial to the investor or creditor. For a borrower, the opposite is true. Compounding periods. When calculating compound interest, the number of compounding periods makes a significant difference. The basic rule is that the higher the number of compounding periods, the greater the amount of compound interest. Compound interest. Start saving early. Young people often neglect to save for retirement. For people in their 20s, the future seems so far ahead that other expenses feel more urgent. Yet these are the years when compound interest is a game changer. Saving small amounts can pay off massively down the road, far more than saving higher amounts later on in life. Here's one example of its effect. Let's say you start investing in the market at $100 a month while still in your 20s. Then let's posit that you average a positive return of 1% a month, 12% annually, compounded monthly across 40 years. Now let's imagine that your twin, who is the same age, doesn't begin investing until 30 years later. Your tardy sibling invests $1,000 a month for 10 years, averaging the same positive return. When you hit your 40-year savings mark, and your twin has saved for 10 years, your twin will have generated about $230,000 in savings, while you will have a bit more than $1.17 million. Even though your twin was investing 10 times as much as you, and even more toward the end, the miracle of compound interest makes your portfolio significantly bigger, here by a factor of a little more than 5. Pros and cons of compounding. Though the miracle of compounding has led to the apocryphal story of Albert Einstein calling it the eighth wonder of the world or man's greatest invention, compounding can also work against consumers who have loans that carry very high interest rates, such as credit card debt. A credit card balance of $20,000 carried at an interest rate of 20% compounded monthly would result in a total compound interest of $4,388 over 1 year, or about $365 per month. On the positive side, compounding can work to your advantage when it comes to your investments and be a potent factor in wealth creation. Exponential growth from compounding interest is also important in mitigating wealth eroding factors, such as increases in the cost of living, inflation, and reduced purchasing power. Mutual funds offer one of the easiest ways for investors to reap the benefits of compound interest. Opting to reinvest dividends derived from the mutual fund results in purchasing more shares of the fund. More compound interest accumulates over time, and the cycle of purchasing more shares will continue to help the investment and the fund grow in value. Compound interest investments. An investor who opts for a dividend reinvestment plan, DRIP, within a brokerage account is essentially using the power of compounding in whatever they invest. Compounding can also work for you when making loan repayments. Making half your mortgage payment twice a month, for example, rather than making the full payment once a month, will end up cutting down your amortization period and saving you a substantial amount of interest. Who benefits from compound interest? Compound interest benefits investors, but the meaning of investors can be quite broad. Banks, for instance, benefit from compound interest when they lend money and reinvest the interest they receive into giving out additional loans. Depositors also benefit from compound interest when they receive interest on their bank accounts, bonds, or other investments. It is important to note that although the term compound interest includes the word interest, the concept applies beyond situations for which the word is typically used, such as bank accounts and loans. Can compound interest make you rich? Yes, compound interest is arguably the most powerful force for generating wealth ever conceived. There are records of merchants, lenders, and various business people using compound interest to become rich for literally thousands of years. In the ancient city of Babylon, for example, clay tablets were used more than 4,000 years ago to instruct students on the mathematics of compound interest. In modern times, Warren Buffett became one of the richest people in the world through a business strategy that involved diligently and patiently compounding his investment returns over long periods. It is likely that, in one form or another, people will be using compound interest to generate wealth for the foreseeable future.